Now, dogs are really interesting because they can have a really positive, but they can have a negative meaning. So if you think about a dog, what is a dog? It's man's best friend.
Yep.
But if you don't have a dog, maybe they're not your best friend. We don't own a dog, and we love dogs. Our daughter is particularly crazy about dogs.
Dogs as a pet are quite a lot of responsibility,
Yes,
aren't they?
they are. And you really do have to clean up after them. Anyway, so normally it would be talking about a friendship in the positive. If in the negative, they probably are talking about probably a friend who's tried to bite or betray you, or somebody else who's come up against you in an attack. But it's definitely a very interesting dream element, and you really do have to ask the Holy Spirit to discern, because it was interesting. I had a dream about a dog that had tried to make me sick, and I think it was something to do with friendships at the time that that had that influence. And so I think in that sense it was a pet dog, but it was in a negative sense, and I think it was my friend's dog, it wasn't my dog. So in that sense, for me, it was a negative. But a lot of people who dream about dogs can really be positive. It's definitely, if you have a positive dream, it could be speaking about your best friend, or it could be speaking about, even if somebody had a dream about a white dog in a positive sense, it could be the Holy Spirit. So what characteristics are dogs? They're very positive towards their owners, but they can be very territorial. So if, for example, you see a dog in a negative sense, it means it could be a territorial spirit. Or
a dream like that would be, say, you're walking past a space, a house, a factory, a field, and a dog comes up to the fence and starts, it's that kind of thing. Or say you're riding a bike past a space, and a dog sort of runs out of the space and starts chasing you away, snapping at it was snapping at my heels. You say something snapping at your heels when you feel chased by a certain thing and you're trying to get away from it. So in that sense, a dog could be a territorial spirit that's an area that you've passed by, or a place that you've needed to go to, but there's something that's trying to stop you from engaging with it. I mean, that's a dog in a negative. Week when I was telling about a dream I had interpreted, there was a guy who was sitting in his living room, and there was a big black Alsatian just sitting on the couch and not really doing anything, but it was just sitting there, and he wanted to know kind of what that dream meant. And I said I would talk about the interpretation of it this week, so
that'd be good.
I'll bring it in here, because it's a bit of an unusual one, and this is sometimes how dream elements can pop up in unusual ways. I really kind of tried to understand what it could mean. Thinking about, well, dog is man's best friend, that this is a black dog. It could be something mysterious, but it could also be something deathly. It's very big. And a big dog is harder to control and more dangerous. An Alsatian, well, if an Alsatian is trained, then they're brilliant, because the police use them as their dogs for the dog patrols, and to bring criminals down, and in chases. If you train an Alsatian, they can be a brilliant work dog, but if they're untrained, they can be incredibly volatile and dangerous.
And can bite.
I
know, like we've had incidences with Alsatians unprovokedly biting.
By biting, that's right, because they're not trained properly. But this is in the social space. It's like sitting on the couch in the living room, and he's kind of looking at it, and he's very wary of it. He's appeared from the description in the dream to be quite nervous about what this dog is going to do. And I I thought about all of these things for a few days and contemplated it. It's like, okay, God, what's going on here? And this is sometimes like how the Holy Spirit gives you a thought out of nowhere, and you just go, okay, what I need to ask this guy was, do you have a history of violence in your family? And it turned out he did. And he said, yeah, I was adopted, but the family I came from, there was one family member murdered somebody, and like the whole family split apart, and I got taken away and fostered, and I had a good foster home, but there's this like history of like really terrible violence in my family. And so I knew it was him trying to being very aware that was in his social space and not really knowing what to do with that. And so I kind of interpreted we started to talk about that and talk about how a sense of aggression and violence in the spirit when dealing with the enemy is a really good thing. And I sort of pointed him in that direction and said, this history of violence doesn't define you. It's not a defining element. You know Jesus. He is the Prince of Peace, and he's the ruler over your life. You don't have to be wary and afraid of it. But at the same time, I actually felt it's like that this thing is an ability to be like you can train an Alsatian. It's not like a wild dog that was sitting in his lounge. And it could be very possible that God was talking to him about spiritual warfare, and that aggression that had been so perverted in his family line was actually a kind of a gifting in spiritual warfare to be aggressive with the enemy. And so I pointed him in that direction. I haven't heard from him since, so
that's
I don't know where it went, but that was how it was interpreted in that sense. So again, what we're telling you here is a guide about how to work with animals, but you need to understand what's going on in the context of the dream.
And I wanted to talk about was a dream I'd had where a lady was on a lead, had a black dog that she did not have under control. It was obviously her pet dog. I could see it was out of control, and the person who I was with in the dream, who I was in ministry with, I said to her, "Oh, this person's not controlling their dog," and she was like a bit like, "Oh, don't cause a fuss, don't cause a fuss, don't make a fuss about the thing." And in the dream, this pet dog of this woman, the black dog, tries to bite my right hand, which is my faith and strength, and the dog tries to bite me, but only ends up slobbering on me. So it's that sense of a bite is something where there's an attack, an attack from the mouth, which is like probably a verbal attack against me, but it obviously doesn't stick, and all she ends up doing is kind of getting slobber over me. Yeah. So, and weirdly enough, before that incident happened, I dreamt that dream. More tea, Vicar.
Yeah.
And straight, almost days later, that attack happened in that context. And
in the context of that dream, it was a longer dream, wasn't it? And there were other things that happened.
Oh, it was a very long dream.
And we've kind of seen all of those things now play out.
Yeah.
But that's a good one, because a verbal attack, because it's to do with the mouth.
And teeth.
And it's it's on a leash. But it's not trained, right? Yeah. It's not trained, which means it's not disciplined. There's no discipline there, and the bite is not damaging, but it does leave a mess, which you then have to clean off.
Yeah.
But once you've cleaned it off, you're back to like where you were before you were bitten, in the dream. So, again, very interesting dream.
You had that interesting dream about that dog, and you weren't sure if it was friendly or not, and you'd gone back into the dream at a later stage, and actually you'd realised that the dog was not friendly. Do you want to talk about that, or?
Yeah, I was in a family car, and I was in the middle of a forest, but in a raised area in a parking lot, and I would stop for lunch with you and Arthur. And there was this like little kind of like a sausage, like a Dachshund, but kind of not actually. Some Dachshund or a Basset or something like that. And it was looking up at me with the puppy eyes, so it was kind of looking endearingly, which is obviously a thing dogs do. That's part of the secret of their relationship to us, is their ability to do that with their eyes makes us feel parental over them, which is one of the ways we then relate to them and take responsibility for them. And so that's a signal that whatever this dog was trying to endear itself to me, so I would take responsibility for it, adopt it, and bring it into my car and then drive off with it, right? Which is kind of my vehicle to get from one place to another. But I was unsure about it because it was approaching me out of nowhere. I had no indication whether it was friendly or not, and I know enough to know that you don't just pick up a stray dog, because you can put it in your boot and it can go crazy, right? So I prayed about that, and I I got the dream image in my mind as I was praying, and it was the rest of the dream kind of played out, and I said no to this dog, and it started growling at me and following me,
and baring its teeth.
And in the end, I had to like sternly say to it, "No, you're not coming with me." And then it kind of turned tail and walked off. So another interesting dog dog-based
Very. And
dream.
so this is the other thing is this happens a lot, and I've had a lot of people say to me, I've been chased by this in a dream, I've been chased by that in a dream, I've been chased by perhaps a lion or perhaps a dog. It could be a fear. It could be a fear, real or unreal. So you have to understand the context. You have to ask the Holy Spirit what it means. So if you dream about being chased, it probably is something to do with something you have a real or a real fear that actually has an impact on you, or a real fear that is not something you should really be afraid of, but at least the dream is showing you there's a fear. So if you're running away from being attacked by a dog, what would that mean?
Running away from is always being about being chased by something, and being chased by something is you're running because you're afraid of it. So it's a fear response, and we know that we've not been given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So in a dream, when you're being chased by anything, be it a lion or a dog or a tortoise, whatever it is, that would be so. No, if you just can't get rid of it, it would be a slow thing that like is always following you around, and no matter where you go, this thing's always going to catch up with you, right? Which would say a thing in itself.
That's funny.
But it's something you're always trying to get away from based on a fear response, and we don't have that spirit. So the thing to do is often in prayer, or even in the dream, to turn around and face it, and even ask it, like, what are you?
Yeah.
know? And I command you, reveal yourself. What are you?
I think somebody said they dreamt about a lion chasing them, and they turned around, and somebody had said to them, he kept saying, I keep dreaming I'm getting chased by a lion, and the guy said, when you dream about that being chased by a lion, turn around and ask them, who are you, or what are you? And the guy did do that, and he dreamt again about being chased by the lion, because I think it was a recurring dream. And he turned around and he said, what are you? And the lion said to him, I'm your courage.
Yeah, I'm your strength, basically.
I'm your courage or your strength. Yeah.
So you're afraid of your own strength because of what you might do, but you shouldn't be afraid of your own strength, because you can exercise it properly under your own self-discipline and self-control.